So, one of the reasons that I came to talk to you today is to talk about discussion about the books that you have. Because one of the things we want to do is move levels, right? We want to dig deeper so that we can move up, get into the harder books, get in those other levels that we want to read. So one of the ways to do that that will help you guys is to have your discussions and getting deeper discussions. So when we are talking about our books, we really want to dig in deep and talk deeply about the characters and the setting and the theme and what's happening and the problems, not just about what happened, but what do we think about it? Why is a character doing this? Why is the author giving us this message? When you start looking deeper into your books, that's going to help prepare you for those tougher books to read. Okay? So, a couple things that will help you with discussion and making it deeper is one, to come prepared to discussion, have a plan for what you want to talk about, and then also during discussion is to have those things that will help us add on to the conversation. So when I was in observing some different classrooms and their discussion groups, some of the discussions were really people just retelling the story the whole time. They were just talking about what happened. And that's okay, but that's kind of what I call the first type of thinking we need to do our book is understand what happens. But then we need to go to the next level where we're really digging into why are all these things happening. So by preparing a little bit more for discussion and having these add-ons, that hopefully will pull out the conversation. So let me show you what I mean. So first thing we're going to do, I asked you to have your jots out, right? So I would like you to look over your jots right now, and I want you to look for where are some things I'm talking about, the characters, that could be interesting things for us to, dig in deeper to. Where are some things maybe about the setting? What about, I don't know, have any of you gotten into any of the theme things, like why, what's the message in the story? So look through your jots, and I want you to star 2 or 3 jots that you think would be really great to talk about and dig a little deeper. So I'm going to give you a minute or two to look through them and put a star next to them so that you bring that to discussion. Yes, question?
Are we doing the jots that we were just doing like yesterday?
You can actually look at last week's too, because there might be some stuff from last week that you didn't dig into that you could, now that we're kind of thinking about it different. So there might be some things on character reactions that I had you guys jot about last week. That would be good. So feel free to look through both. When you have at least 2 or 3 things starred, put your hand in your heads so I can judge who's ready when. And while you're waiting, I want you to think about how are you going to bring that up? What is it about the jots you chose that will be good to talk about? I'll give you about 30 more seconds. Has everybody got their hand in their head if you're done? So I know for sure. Okay. All right. Excellent. So, first thing is to be prepared, right? So you chose what kinds of things you're going to talk about. Now, it doesn't mean you can't talk about other things. It just gives you a starting point. It's really good to come in with a starting point. Okay, then the next thing that we're going to do is just kind of talk about how discussion should go. And I have for you this beautifully hot pink sheet that I want you to actually keep so that you have some things to help you when you get stuck, okay? So this lays out all the things I'm going to talk about. So the first thing is when we're going to start sharing, is we do want to talk about what has happened in the story, because you've all agreed on the pages you're reading. So you do need to go back and say, well, this is kind of what happened. And you need to do a little bit of a retell to make sure everybody kind of is on the same page as to what happened. And then from there, you want to start sharing some things of interest. So that's where you can pull out some of those jots that you had. Maybe you're going to share about a character, something you noticed, something you're confused about, something you're not sure about. Okay? And then the last thing is when somebody shares, sometimes what I see is people will go, oh, and I really couldn't believe how Jeremy, all he could do is sit there and look at all the shoes everybody had on. And everybody nods and goes, okay. And then the next person starts talking. But we didn't have a discussion, did we, about that?
Moved into what they wanted to do.
Yeah, you just talked and the next person. That's not a discussion. Discussion's when there's other people commenting. So that's where the add-ons to the conversation have. So some of those things, when someone says something like that, you might say, oh, well, I'm starting to notice that Jeremy is doing blah, blah, blah. Or to add on to that, I also thought it was really selfish of him. That's all he could think about instead of doing his homework. Do you guys know what I'm talking about, those shoes? Didn't you guys read that recently? Okay. Or maybe you agree with what somebody's saying or disagree. And it's okay to say, I really disagree with you. I think I saw this. Now that disagreeing or agreeing doesn't mean they're right or wrong. It's just sometimes we see things differently, and that's what makes it interesting. One of the things I love, you guys, is when I have that conversation with other people, and especially, actually, my favorite conversations are with students, because you guys see things so differently than I, because I'm a mom, I'm older, I've got 4 older kids, so my life, I see things a little different. You guys are younger, so you see things in a different light than I do, often a little bit more positive sometimes than I do. So that's what makes the discussion so fun, is when somebody else has a whole different view and you go, wow, I hadn't thought about that. Have you ever had that happen? Yeah. So that's what I want. So these add-ons are what I want you to hold on to. So if you notice on the bottom of your sheet, I have those there for you. So keep this in front of you when we get to discussion so that you can, when you're like, okay, I should say something, you can look at it and add something from there.
Good morning, everybody. The last group that we need to photograph are all members of the grade 5 choir. To the little theater, grade 5 choir. Thank